Look, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya 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 hey yo hey yo Fort Beck Community College Ukiepino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pebi hagik tabi ichachia ya bino hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo Fort Beck Community College Ukiepino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pebi hagik tabi ichachia ya bino hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha hey yo hey yo hey yo
Man in black. Just in black.
College Ukiepino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pebi hagik tabi ichachia ya bino hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha hey yo hey yo hey yo Fort Peck Community College Ukiepino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pebi hagik tabi ichachia ya bino hey yo
Right, all right. That's how you start off a
I'm
podcast. There.
I'm froze up. My image is froze up.
Oh, but we hear you good, Earl. You're sounding good here. You look
Okay.
froze. While he's fixing his video cam, we'll get started here. Hami takuyapi, peti washte chichiapi do, dokorie spemi che makiapi, washichua Hopkins, Emiedo, Diana Chiakapi, Mdakepi. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Buffalo Chasers podcast. I want to thank everybody for joining us here on at Fort Peck Community College, where we're streaming at you live from Poplar and then over there in Fort Yates as well. So we're gonna have a good podcast today because we have the three Musketeers are back. Dexy Tommy, Dexy Earl. So thank both of you gentlemen for coming today and helping us out here. So before we get started, could we have a prayer in a good way? And I don't know if Dexy Earl, if you're able to hear or not, if you can, could you share a prayer with us?
It's hard for me so. I can only last for so long. So my throat's pretty sore.
That's good. Well, then Dexy Tommy, share a prayer with us, please.
Oh, how me taki epi daya ya hipi. Ushimala ktewi chashamila. Omakia ho chiki ambetukile. Aha, tukashila na wakanta kata teria toba. Unchimakana makaina. Nakumi taki po nagi makpea ktaya ge ho choka kta hiopo. Nichop. Ushia ke agnagopta ucheki ambetukile. Atukashila na wakantaka. Oyate oyasi chanku luta anga omani ichakia po ushu ichala po wichozani ukopi hete tuela opila chicha. Atukashila na wakantaka. Kiksiapo mitake pi winukchalapi wichakchalapi wakaya japi ukchilapi winchinchalapi koshkapi koshkapi chanku washte upi wichozani upi okiawo ushu ichala po. Atukashila wakantaka kiksiapo mitake pi Unchi makao mani na wayazapi o ichakiapo. Kiksiapo mitakiapi unchi makao mani na ha chante yoksijo mani o ichakiapo. Kiksiapo mitakiapi agichita oyate kizuya ekta uchasha bile weapile okiawo ushi uchalapo. Atukashila na wakantanka uopila chicha ampetu washtema kona ha Ekchewi chashamielo hohe chajemi tawam nisha ketoba imachapi uchekia mitana agnagopta. How mitake oasi wamakashka oasi.
Stedo pirama.
I think I covered all the bases except for those numbers for that lottery. I wanted to pray for that, but I figured I'll wait when I get in a sweat lodge or when I'm sun dancing. I'll do that.
Can't be something to win that.
Oh, great. We wish, eh?
Okay, so before we get started, we try to acknowledge a few winners of our drawing every week. And so there's a couple items that we have up for grab. We have a Buffalo Chasers podcast winners, a Kindle Fire tablet. The winner of that is Julia Mitchell.
Tashumpa dinner. Winner, Tashumpa dinner.
Yeah. Then we also have a Cho Buffalo Chasers jacket.
Not this one, but one just like it. But
yeah, there's
the red one.
It's red, and it's our brand new one. It's like you letter in being Indian when you get this jacket and rock it. So the winner of that jacket is Lois Red Elk Reed. Winner.
Oh, right on. Oh, hello.
So both of you, Julia and Lois, you can redeem your prizes at Student Services Reception Area here at Fort Peck Community College. If you are not in the area for whatever reason, just give us a phone call, 406-768-6370. Give us your name and your mailing address and your jacket size, and we'll mail it on out. So congratulations to both of you. So Dexy Tommy, Dexy Earl, what do you got for us today?
Oh, well, what'd you think, Chia? Did you have some text you want to go through or songs or anything? Because I'm there for you, brother man. I'll support that 100%. No, but if you want me to talk a little bit so you can catch your breath and get your voice right. You should have that hot tea with honey in it right now. Just drink it as you talk. You won't be choking around.
I have to holler for it.
Yeah.
I'll use my phone. I'll get some. Go ahead. You will go out.
Oh, okay. You know, one of the things that I've been getting calls, especially through a messenger from a lot of people that watch the podcast, and they're talking about some of the things that we're sharing, and they said they really appreciate that. And then I seen where we're incorporating
some hot tea, huh?
Jim Redigo's perspective, because that's real formally ceremonial what he talks about, and then we talk about more Ekchewichasha stuff, not Wakanwichasha stuff. But I think that fits so well together. I think it's going to really enhance and help people understand that as common people we live like this, but ceremonial wise, our Wichasha Wakha, they kind of have to live kind of a different style of life, really identify with the disciplines of carrying that title, if you will, if you want to refer to it as a title. But there's no hierarchy involved. But at the same time, there's a responsibility that these holy men, the ones that are filled with spiritual energy, those type of men, they share all of these good characteristics and qualities, you know. And one way that you know, when people speak like this, when they talk like that, they have an understanding, not a knowledge, but an understanding of these things. And it's important for us to realize that we're very capable of representing that Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, Wichoka, that way of life that we do, and at the same time continue to live a life where we can pay our bills and pay the car payment, pay for electricity, get food, because we got to get out there and hustle as well to kind of make sure that we don't starve and we're not homeless, because you got to get out there and get in the mix as well. But at the same time, we have to understand there's an opportunity for us to transition, not to have to deal with all that stress of everyday life, where we can take a little break and go to a ceremony and relax and just have good wishes for other people and stuff like that. And then maybe just go walk by a creek, walk by some moving water, and kind of get all the negative ions off of you, because that's what that will do for you. And go into a ceremony and just sit there and let the lead ceremonial man kind of take you to that place that is way on the inside of you, in your heart. And then it goes from your heart through your mind, and from your mind it comes out in your speech, and then it comes from your speech. The way you live is based on your actions. And so you become somewhat of an Ekchewichasha, a common man, consistent in your understandings of life, and trying to be good to everything and everybody as well as you could. And then it all starts making sense, because I'm getting a lot of calls and texts from various people that are really starting to understand how that really applies. And it's amazing. A lot of the ones that have been contacting me are saying, oh man, Tommy, I never thought of it like that. You know, what you guys do on the podcast, it really kind of puts it all in perspective for them, because they're so caught up in chasing that standard of living, what they're used to based on their job and various other things that they're involved in. And they forget that it's just as a casual way in which we represent, by just to walk by the water. You don't have to be all holy and self-righteous and pious in an Indian way, but you don't try to be somebody, but you're just common people. And sometimes our people enjoy the little reminders that we put out there, especially in the utilization of our language. I'm going to be going up there to Whitecap Reserve in 1st of June, 1st and 2nd. I'm trying to get my Chie Nichole to come with me to go up there. But it's stuff like that, like words in our language help us to understand the importance of maintaining what is that word I just now shared with you, bro? Wableza, or
Hawaiian blazer.
yeah, Hawaiian blazer. and this to kind of be aware of your surroundings, always be watchful of what your environment, and you learn from it, because the best teacher is observation. And that's kind of how we live our life, not so much wanting to be the first one to talk or say this, say that. Sometimes we just sit back and observe, and that's what the older people will do. And then when the younger ones tease each other and one gets mad, then the older ones can see that, no, he needs to develop himself a little bit more. And they say, prehichia, that makes yourself stronger. Humble yourself to these things to make yourself stronger. And all of that makes sense. It helps us to evolve and prepare for this mystery of death. And in that process, you're preparing for anything. But when they say it in a spiritual way, it means you're preparing for that mystery of death, so you don't have to fear it. And of course, based on our instincts or survival, we all want to live, but at the same time, we prepare for that and know that when it's our time, when we're finished here, then we're going to go to a much better place, and we have that understanding, and we don't have a concept of oblivion when we die. There's actually another energy that's going to accept us into their world or their way of living that's different. And so, it's stuff like that our people have shared with me, that they've been observing through our podcast, that really kind of helps them calm down, get rid of some of their anxiety as it relates to some of the issues they get nervous about or anxious about, and then just to accept the way of life that we're presented with, and then we make the best out of what we got, understanding the system and making it work for you as well as it can. We don't expect anything from anybody, but we sure try to live a life that people can look at us and observe us in our life and realize we're not necessarily a role model, but we do definitely model a role. And we don't evangelize about it. We don't virtually signal about it. Like, I'm not trying to prove I'm a good guy or a good father, but yet I've been taught how to be an adult, mature Indian man for that sake of when I joined the army. After I came back from the army, I was referred to as a Wichasha. Before that, I was just a Wicha, not a raccoon, a man. But that essay that gets attached to that Wichasha, that Wicha, that essay represents that you've done something noble and gallant for the sake of your family, or the name that you carry, that family name, and you've done something very honorable. Then you're referred to as a Wichasha, and people don't really understand that. But I feel that with the involvement of Jim being in there, at some point he may explain that these stages of life that we're involved in. We come in as Wakayaja, and then we go into Hokshila, then we go into Koshka, and then we go into, and a lot of these things, they don't help us develop that Wicha stage, that man stage, to where when we're Koshka, we learn that it's different from Hokshila, because Hokshila, we're hitting the girls and fighting them and all that good stuff. But when we come Koshka, we start holding their hand, hugging them, stuff like that, developing a relationship with the other gender. And then when we become Wicha, we start realizing the importance of becoming a parent, if you will. You start learning about our ability to share with a person that we have great love for, that it could evolve into something by making a child, And in that Wicha stage, we learn how to become a man that we would refer to as Wichasha, And see, but I think, and I'm not paranoid, but I think they're after us. But I think that Wicha stage was taken out for whatever reason, because they're good at what they do. And I think by not teaching us how to care for our children, which was an effect of boarding school era and stuff, institutionalization, it kind of took that away from us. So we went right from Koshka right to Wichasha. And I think that's why a lot of our alleged Wichashas have not accomplished anything in their life to bring honor to their family, but they're just getting that title with nothing, eh? And that's the same thing like with ceremony. We have so many people out there that want to be Wichasha, but yet they don't understand it enough to really start applying it for the sake of others. With that, my dad would share with me. He said, "My son, when you go to ceremony, you're invited. You should go, and then you can observe." And he said, "If you see it work, then that individual was taught properly how to follow the protocol. But if it don't work," he said, "well, just pray for them that hopefully as they continue to practice, it'll work for them. But if it don't work," he said, "they're just going through the motions." So it's that understanding that we have in respects to, we don't criticize or judge. And in our language, there's no sarcasm, because it's always a language of respect. And so we always try to speak good of others, even though it may not be, that's why it's hard for Indians to say something. If you got nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. That's kind of where we're at, eh? And gossip is fun to listen to. I don't gossip at all, in respects to that, because of those teachings. But you know what I heard? That was a joke, nephew. I gossip. But anyway, and somebody that would say that they don't gossip, they gossip. That's why they're just trying to cover their tracks. They're getting good at that. But in that respect, we always try to have good thoughts, good intentions, if you will, to walk in this red road, not for our sake, but for the sake of the tracks that we're making on that red road, and because of those that are following you. So you always want to carry yourself in an honorable, dignified manner to let the young people understand, that our future, to realize the importance of really taking it serious as it relates to becoming a good human being, not a good Indian, but a good human being. And so with that statement, that's a statement of inclusiveness. It helps us realize the importance of that commonality that we have. So when we go outside and we have a ceremony, all of us sit on the ground, or if it's in a house, we all sit on the floor, because there's no hierarchy there. There's nobody higher or nobody lower than you. You're all the same. You're all in the same, and it gives us recognition of that commonness of who and what we are. And as we do these things, we carry this attitude of understanding that we're here for a purpose and a dedication. But as we look inwardly, we don't look this way and blame other people for our circumstance. We look inwardly and we accept responsibility for our human nature, and we try to adjust it so that it's good for everybody else. And so in that respect, we always are trying to make things better, not for ourselves, but for our young people that are coming behind, those that are following your tracks. And I think that's an indication of who and what we are as Dakota, Lakota, Nakona people, that's what we'd like to aspire to, is it not getting back to, but even enhancing it more, like we're doing on the podcast, to enhance that character development to a point to where we can start treating people with respect. We can start talking to people with respect. What do you think of that, Chie? Does that make any sense to you?
Right now.
So Chie, does that make any sense to you, what I just said?
All right, I'll call you later here.
Chie. So
I can't help look at myself, looking like I'm sleeping on my screen here.
it does. Look at you. But
Yeah,
does that
Matasa, que es delicious. Look like.
yeah? Does that make sense to you, what I shared?
Oh yeah, I was following along. I say, one of the things that I've brought to mind about time and its relevance, how fast things dissipate, our lives and things that we
Yeah.
do, and we chose this lifestyle where we cannot go and knock on doors and say, I can do this for you.
Yeah.
I wasn't brought up that way.
Yeah.
You know, or call around and say, you know, inquiring about what's going to be done, and I could do whatever this, you know, if you need my help. There's a protocol and a procedure to all of that.
How?
And,
That's it.
you know, it has to come to you, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm been very fortunate that kind of upbringing, but it was hard to accept it.
Yeah.
You know, when you're growing up in this Washicho world, you're taught to be competitive.
Yeah.
Even down to the handshake, the direct eyes.
Yeah.
You know, but then on the other hand, you know, you have to stay humble, you know.
Yeah.
So balancing those two it can be could be how would you call it? Very stressful, very you know, you don't know which way to go sometimes. And so finding that balance or that harmony, that so you can coexist in both ways, requires a lot of study, self-study, and actually going back and finding yourself.
Yeah.
And so you when you mentioned back Oanga, which Hakya is, that is a major step that a person has to learn how to do.
Yeah.
So I try to influence my kids that you have to learn to listen.
How?
By listening is how you learn. And when you're through listening, you take it home and think about it for a while. What was that really about? What was what I was told going to stay in my mind as far as pronunciations or words you want to learn or history? And so I was sitting here, I was thinking about when we go through stages of life for ourselves, as what we call ourselves, Ikchewichasha, you know, the beginning of the day and the end of the day, and that time in between, there, especially when you get older, you think of so many things that you wish you had done or had done better.
Yeah.
But yet the real world tells you that those experiences are what you have learned from.
Yeah.
So you put that in perspective and saying, all right, well, the number one thing that I was able to do, it didn't come from a degreed doctor with psychology or sociology, or, you know, it helps people, that's good. But from an individual perspective, what brought me back to that balance was the inability to express myself in my own language.
Oh.
So my counselor spoke Lakota. So hekchi wakena hekchi wagla ke ha. Aku ke kai buluk che wicha imuge chai, he said, inji womagla ke no makakesa.
Yeah.
And
So
so that balance began for me was seeking and finding that language.
Yeah.
Where I really belonged, where my first mind was, because I grew up in a home where there was no English spoken. And there was certain protocol and etiquette to that. We used to have a lot of visitation from Mormons. And their prophecy from the Book of Mormon was to go out and bring the Book of Mormons to the Lamanites, which encompasses many different tribes. So when they used to come to our house, you know, my aunt invited them in, and to us, they were just, you know, these guys with white shirts and ties and very hospitable and very nice and kind. And so, you know, just kind of, that's Auntie's decision, but we never, you know, thought nothing of it. I didn't. But one day, McPherson, I always remember his name, McPherson, Elder McPherson. He said, don't you guys speak your language? And I said, yes, we do. He said, why don't you speak your language? I said, we do, but we're taught that when you come to our home, it's you that has to be treated so you're welcome and comfortable.
Yeah.
And so speaking to you in English, I said, that provides that welcoming to our home. I said, in Lakota, I said, you know, if we start using those words, I said, you wouldn't feel comfortable because you don't know. He said, well, please don't do that. He said, speak your language. And I felt very, very kind of somewhat amazed that he had this how would you call it, knowledge that it's very important to know yourself and know your language.
Yeah.
And so whenever he came to the house, and you know, all we'd have to see is, well, it's Brother McPherson and this other guy. So they knock on the door, and you know, one of us would holler, "Oh, Tumahio, Tumahio, Yahipalo," and they would come in, you know. And as
Come in, you're welcome.
time,
Yeah.
you know, as time progressed, they, you know, they started using words like pilamaya, you know. And so they too
Cool.
are expanding the holistic attitude about how important it is to have self-identity. And so a lot of people criticize them, you know, and then you go back, and then not that far back either. Oh, he's just trying to be a big Indian. You know, when somebody's trying to do things for themselves, make things better, or, you know, it's something different, or some, oh, he's just trying to be one of those big Indians.
Yeah.
So that attitude towards people that were outgoers and achievers trying to make a difference, our own people used to criticize them.
Yeah.
And so I asked my aunt, I said, why is there so much jealousy amongst our people? And we don't, you know, well, why? She said, look at it this way. She said, you have a basket of crabs on the back, and every time one of them tries to get out and get ahead, the other ones crawl up and pull them back down. So
Yeah.
that reference always stuck in my mind. So throughout life, that little word of wisdom has always said, you know, I don't want to be like that kind of person.
Yeah.
And so my attitude was going around and, how would you say it, utilizing my language to whoever
Oh.
wanted to speak it. And you could tell those were uncomfortable people, you know.
Yeah.
Good example was, you know, we went to a public school in McLaughlin, and then the boarding school system up north, or the agency school up north, you know, they would come down, you know, and to McLaughlin, and they'd say, look at those apples. And I never heard that term before,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
You know? So I said, I wonder what they mean. And what they're referring to is red on the outside, but white on the inside.
Yeah.
You know, that was a thing that they
Yeah.
could learn from somebody in their community that was ingrained in them,
Yeah.
just like trying to be a big Indian. And so it kind of stuck to my mind like that. And I said, so it kind of bothered me. And next time I saw them again, they said that because we all went to the movie hall. You know, they come down for the movie on Sunday, and everybody goes to movies and golf it.
Yeah.
So one of them said that again. I said, I said, and who are you?
Yeah.
I said, you know,
Oh.
and
Yeah.
he didn't respond. He didn't say nothing. And so that transition that was occurring and taking place, there were a lot of influence taking place within the families about the differences between communities.
Mm.
And it's sad to say, but it's still alive today,
Yeah. Oh.
you know. And I had chumpy, they're that way and
Yeah.
backwards too. You know? So
Ah.
that ethnocentrism is still alive and well. And chances are it's, you know, it's something that was ingrained. And so when I go north, or I go and got to know my friends, which most of them are gone now, you know, Dakota Wogudaka, and Dakota Wogudaka, you know, I
Oh.
spoke
Oh.
being with them.
Yeah.
And I taught myself those things.
Mhm.
And it wasn't that difficult to go from Lakota, Dakota, you know?
Yeah.
And so I always make it a point, you know, like when I teach classes here, I make sure that they understand that there's two dialects here, you know? And so we have to remember that. I says, we have a school system here that represents the whole reservation because they get buses in from all the districts. Then they need to know that there is a Dakota, Lakota.
Yeah.
And there are differences in the pronunciations and language. But what brought that to mind was, you know, I was very fortunate to be an eavesdropper, so to speak. I've always had this.
Nosy.
Yeah, you guess you could say that. But I'd sit in the living room while all the grandmas were visiting and talking about various topics. But it was all in the language, you know, thinking that I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Even them had that attitude that the younger generations, you know, they don't want to learn. They don't want to know.
Yeah.
You know, when I was Shichu, you know, you have one. They know English now, so
yeah.
But I used to listen to what they had to say. And so when I go back and think about those words of wisdom that I heard in there, oftentimes one of the major ones that I heard was the word you mentioned, Belehichia. Belehichia, a very powerful word amongst our values.
Yeah.
Because it means no matter what, you stay humble. You know, stay humble, Belehichia.
Oh.
And so I go back and think about how many times I've heard that word used in that sense. And it's usually when you lose a loved one. People will come up to you and shake your hands and give your condolences. The older ones would say, Belehichia.
Yeah.
You know, keep a perspective, stay humble. Anyway, the thing that I wanted to share a little bit was, you know, you have idle time. So I've looked at a lot of the reports and some of them I censor and review at school so I can show them to the bigger kids about what has happened with the boarding schools. And so I have friends that work in the tribal building that are going to give me some information about dates and when it was established here to be a little more informative. But I went to school here when this was a school, and so they did. So a lot of my generations went to school at St. Bernard's because there's dormitories and there's all that was transpired there. But what I remember most of all is that when you're living a life or environment where, you know, everybody that's in the community in some form or another calls you by some kinship term, you know, and you relate it back to them as auntie or, you know, Lexi and Tashi, Twain, and Lala, and Ate.
Yeah.
All those were part of who we were.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, not noticing because there was always something somewhere in that community where, you know, people ate, they shared everything. You know, no electricity, no refrigerator. So there was always papa and there was always soup, and there was always things like that. And then the store there, oranges, apples, and things like that, and commodities. Anyway, yeah. So we had, to me, running around and being part of that, and going to school like that, and at school at Rock Creek, I always thought, I said, this is to me, no worries, no concerns, just having a happy life, and just play. You know, go to school, play, construct. Then all of a sudden you wake up in this whole new place called an annex, 300 some miles away. You go to sleep, wake up, and you're in a whole different world. And that's trauma.
Yeah.
So that adaptation for us, that forced assimilation or genocide that we went through as young kids, we got to see so many different effects of that system that was there to educate us, to
They call that,
civilize.
they call that ACEs.
Yeah.
Adverse childhood effects. That's what they call it now. That trauma, that
So-
displacement. Yeah.
Yeah. So I go back and think about all the things that I experienced, and there were things that I didn't like to see, but it wasn't always the school's fault. We still had a lot of kids that misbehaved that came from the districts.
Yeah.
And then even that was in turmoil because of all the alcohol, so even down to my family, my dad, was sipping all the time, uncles, and you put that in perspective, and I say, well, okay, I said, what did I learn?
Yeah.
Well, I learned to be on time for sure.
Well,
And I
Chie,
learned that.
remember we were talking about this, like my boarding school in my high school years. Shit, I was plumb happy to be in school. That stuff didn't happen to me. I got 3 hots and a cot, man. I couldn't have been more, because I grew up so poor, eh? And same thing. Remember we were talking about that?
Yeah. So when you go back and think about what was transpiring, what's taking place, and things are happening, the one thing that I got from was encouragement.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate because our dormitory matrons that watched us
We're Indians.
were
Yeah.
Native Americans.
Yeah.
And they would say, I always remember we were in a bus in the front of the Capitol building in Pierce, South Dakota, and your school was out. And you see all these kids coming out of school, and they had straps around books, carrying them on their back. And I remember Mr. Heisler saying, he said, now you see that, Earl? He said, in order for you to get a good education, that's what you need to do. You have to study.
Yeah.
And that was impressionable because you see all these kids carrying homework and carrying books back from school. Where in boarding school, everything was left in the room.
Yeah.
And what you were really doing is making wallets, or you're doing arts and crafts of some sort,
Yeah.
So that encouragement from us, like Mrs. McGee, he said, Ashley, her brother knew my dad very well. Anyway, she would tell us, she said, don't ever be afraid to speak your language. Don't be afraid to practice your culture.
Yeah.
And so those matrons were, how would you say it, imprinting us for the rest of our lives. Mr. Chasing Crow used to make our outfits so we'd go dance for the elderly in all the communities.
Yeah.
Dance to records.
Yeah.
So that, and also getting to know other kids in and around our grade level, But the biggest thing that I remember most of all is that they kept the girls and the boys separate all the time. Even down to my sister. We couldn't play together. We're different grades, so we marched us from classroom to classroom, church to church, activities to activities, and always had to stay in a group. And so even those years that we were in boarding school, we never got a really chance to have fun with our sister.
Family.
So that's one. Yeah, that's one of the things that I forgot to mention. But having been through all that, and I go back and I say, okay. I said, it's a balance. A lot of things are wrong. There's also still goodness in it. And so I attribute a lot of my awareness towards people that encouraged me all the time. And they're all around us. And so we need to practice doing that for our young kids and say, oh, stay, Chano, that's good, you done that. My little tiny kids, I gave them papers to draw. So I wanted you to draw me some hooves, lightning, bison, bears, buffalo. It's springtime, wetu. Why not springtime? Things, ducks, whatever. So they bring me this drawing. So I said, now what's this? And you're Pokemon, some other things they're talking about. I said, that's not a bear. No, that's a Pokemon.
Pokemon.
So I learned now that you have to make templates and put them on her so they know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I had those thoughts and thinking about all that kind of stuff. But now the other aspect that I wanted to mention is that every time things are starting to settle and go down in a good way, you said your thank you prayers, you're sitting here thinking about calling a relative and see how they're doing. My brother hadn't called for a while. He's down in Hot Springs Veterans Home.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's an ex-Marine. And finally he called me. And his voice is very raspy.
Oh,
So it's
man.
kind of hard to. Plus, he's kind of luchtan because he was in the artillery.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're supposed to wear those plugins in the ears, but
Can't hear.
a
Yeah.
lot of pros, yeah, can.
No
So you have to
talk.
really be patient. Anyway, he said they took my foot off. So they did a graft underneath this sole of his feet, hoping that the gangrene would be stopped. But circulation didn't continue down there. So now they took his right foot off.
See, chat.
Yeah. So he said, I showed them, he said, I need to go to the bathroom. I got up, he said, I used the bathroom on my own. You know, I got those little chairs with the knees, put your knee on it and cruise around.
Yeah.
He said, that come in handy. He said, at least they left me a stump, he said, so I can get a foot on there, like, you know, so there are lots of guys around like that. So
Yeah.
I said, the main thing is take care of this, take care of your circulation. You should let you get good circulation there all the time.
Yeah.
Like that balance thing then and there for me is, you know, good thing it wasn't his leg, good thing with the gangrene didn't go to his body. So there is a ovular process there too. Right?
Oh, yeah. You know,
Anyway, so
one of the things, Chet, we do these things and we overthink these things. We get caught up in that fast way of life, and then we overthink them because we don't realize, just putting your feet on Mother Earth is a healing. Eh? Walking by a creek is a healing. Just going off by yourself and sitting on a hill and having thoughts is a healing, because you're connected with that Mother Earth in a good way, and people kind of take that for granted, and they don't understand that. Walking in the snow with you in bare feet, you don't have to stay out there for hours, but I mean, just getting your feet on the ground in the snow, it's a healing process, and people don't understand that, like old Chie Tom, he's kind of going through some stuff, but even that, he's thankful for that little cart he can push now. Hey, he can go on instead of and it's important for us all to understand that. Like the impact of what you're talking about, the boarding school. I was so poor, my relatives even wouldn't recognize me. That's how poor we were because my dad raised 5 kids, but all by himself. But when we went to boarding school, holy crap, that was a luxury in itself. We had clean sheets, we got 3 squares a day, and oh man, that was good. And then that even
new shoestrings.
Yeah, new shoestrings, because we didn't get new shoes. We got new shoestrings because we wore tennis shoes year round. But even then, when I went to the Army, that helped me because everybody was crying around, homesick and stuff. I was happy. They're going to pay me now, even to sit here and have a nice clean bed, and they're going to feed me, and to boot, they can give me a check. Shit, I thought I was in 7th heaven and enjoying the heck out of it. But that way of life really strengthened me a bit of heat. They say humble yourself, but it also means give yourself strength. They make yourself strong enough to be humble in that way. And they don't realize that sometimes when these things are all given to you in that way, it really enhances that attitude of entitlement. I want mine. I need mine. Where's mine at? And that's not our way. It's about, what about the others? For the sake of the greater good, we do these things. And so, You know, it's like, well, look at you, look at me. We got good minds. We could have went out there in the white man's world and made hundreds thousands of dollars, but we chose to stay home because of our relatives. That's what bonded us here. We could have went out and done everything else too, but we chose not to. That's personal choice. That's understanding.
Choice.
Yeah, they're just common people, and those guys could be rich. They could hold that spot. We'll stay down here and help out over here. We'll hold this spot down. So we're all needed. We're all needed to be that. Somebody has to be rich. We don't have to be poor, but we don't have to be needy either. And that's what we were taught. And so those things like that, we always want to put ourselves down and this, that, and the other. But heck, when we're just common people, that's all we are. We don't need to. We're taught we don't have much, but what little we have, we'll share with you. And I think that's one of the basis and the foundation of our thought processes. That's the way we choose to live. And a lot of people think we're stupid for not taking advantage of the knowledge or the wisdom or the experiences that we learn and applying them so we make money at it. We don't need that. We need money to go to the casino, but we don't need that much money. We'll just lose it all at the casino anyway. So, but as long as we got enough to get by and we're happy with that. How many times have we been fed by other people? How many times have people went out and hunted for us and brought us meat back? How many times have people give us a ride? How many times have people actually stepped up and helped us clean our house and stuff like that? You know, that's community right there. Especially when you're having a tough time, when you're sick and you're ill and stuff, people step up. In Indian country, they do that. And they'll come and help you. But I don't know if that way of life is going to continue on unless we can really continue to pursue this ideological paradigm shift to where we can change that, not change it, but kind of reinforce it, bring it back to a way of life to helping us understand the importance of community, to the importance of family that they try to take away from us. But again, it's so against our nature. We don't need that much money. We need money, but not that much. Holy Christ, some of them get carried away and look at where it gets them. They die young, they're stressed out and trying to hang on to their dollars. And here we are just still commonly living. And, you know, it's not fair to compete or judge. And I'm not judging people that are rich. What I'm trying to help people understand is for whatever reason, we're not stupid because we didn't get rich. We're just common people that we're living our life the way we choose to live it, not what they taught us in spite of what they tried to indoctrinate us into. We're just Indians and it's okay to be that. That's what, you know, when they say, oh, you're just going to turn into a big Indian. Look at, they're trying to be big Indians and that word apple really affects it. No, I don't have to prove nothing to nobody. I just, I'm comfortable. And then when you, in my case, dealing with cancer, you can overcome that and deal with it and just accept it. And like what you're going through, you're still here, brother man. You're still strong. You're still utilizing your talents in a good way. That's not because of you. That's because of the Creator, that spiritual energy that's making sure we're still here and sharing in a good way for the sake of others, not for our own sake. What do you think about that, Chia?
You know, like brought a smile on my face about Allah Joe. We got stuck in a gumbo down in a Sundance grounds along the Grand River down there.
Yeah.
And so I had to stay and watch the vehicle while he said he'd walk back and call the college and let them know I'm down there with the vehicle stuck and to need help to get out. He said, why? He said, Moni Blablin Tuksha, you know, we chop look like tell them Hankil, we chop, tell them that where you're at and I'll call him and stuff. She said, so he left.
Yeah.
And so I'm down there all by myself down there and just kind of sitting in the shade. And that's where the sun dances, the ghost dances were at the last outstanding rock. So I'm sitting down there and birds, comfy place. There's birds and you can hear the leaves in the trees and just relaxed. I mean, I wasn't scared of nothing. My grandfather's buried there. Anyway, so they came down, found me. We got the car out and all that stuff. And the next day, he came up to check the mail. McLaughlin, or he came up to town there, come over to my place. He said, Taco chichaking. I said, okay. He said, Yel Chaco, Ella, Omani, Oganala Kale, Koshkala Kwahioni, he said, Mapahi, he said.
What?
So Imuha, he said, where are you from? He said, Bullhead. Has Haish Ashana, he had freckles on, blue eyes.
Yeah.
And he said, so Lala Joe didn't know if he really understood, Lakota.
Oh.
So as they're going down the road, pretty soon that boy said, Allah, he said, Iwogalaka, he said, Lakho Wagalaka, Wakachli, Mizo Maspelo.
Oh. Yeah.
What? Go, he said, Oli, he said, he Chachma, he said,
His
I was raised
grandpa,
by
yeah.
Oli. Yeah. This is a little baby. They adopted him. No, so Kelita Lakol Wagalaka, it's a long joke. I thought that was amusing.
Yeah, freckles and blue eyes, really. Well,
that's happened a few times. There are people out there, you would never think they speak the language, and why they don't want to speak it, I don't understand.
Yeah.
We have people that could speak it, but they chose not to anymore, but they understand it.
Yeah.
We need teachers bad, but for some reason, they just don't want to.
What was that word you used for them?
Yeah, I was thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
Wishteche.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Write that one
There's
down,
something-
Toshka. That's one that'll
There's
understand, but they
something-
don't speak it. Yeah.
There's something of the colonization traumatic that's still in play there.
Yeah. Hey, Chie, I know
Anyway.
what I was going to ask you. Nephew this morning was asking me about those different parts of Tanicha, Tashumba, Tanicha, and something else. The book. Yeah,
Yeah, they call it the book part is, let's see, what is that? Well, the Tanicha is the honeycomb.
Okay.
And Chashupa is a straight gut.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they do call I heard him make reference to Woap.
The book.
So, yeah, they say they want to pay Woapi would be the book in the stomach of the cow.
Book. Yeah.
Yeah, Tchatchanka, So
What's
that
those
would
words you
apply
got?
to that.
Toshka, tell them those words you got.
Yeah. There was a Tahanshi Volney fast horse. He gave me a call this morning. He was asking, he said, how do they say it over there? And I said, I don't know. He said, so he asked around, he said, so there was 4 parts of Tanecha that he identified. The straight gut, he said, when he asked around like Rosebud, different communities, Tashupa Owotana, like the straight
Yeah.
gut, what he said. And then that was one. Then the cooked or crooked gut, Tashub Ksha.
Cool.
Yeah, like the crooked guts is what he said. That was one. And the third one was honeycomb or the hairnet. That is Tanicha Shkoka. Tanicha Shkoka. Have you heard those before?
No, they're descriptive, so
And then the
it's
book,
just the words.
the fourth one for book, I thought he said it was Chamnamna.
Yeah.
Sponge, looks like a sponge is what
Yeah.
he's saying. But that's just what I thought I heard. But yeah, later on I can visit with you about that because we really want to know our Tanicha on here.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Wishing for
Like-
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll hit you to it, Lord. Why not? You stop.
Well, now you got my mind working. I used to have all that stuff when somebody stole my book.
Yeah.
but we hardly ever use those words anymore. So that's
Oh.
good to know.
Yeah, I guess Volney's trying to create a dictionary. But anyways,
Yeah.
tell him we're trying to get a buffalo this October, man. We want to know all those Lakota parts. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
wickedly cho. That'd be really cool. So
Yeah,
okay.
there's people here that still know that stuff. The only part that I know is the hide and head and tail, hooves.
Sente,
Yeah.
pa.
A good place to find them is the Niktomi stories.
Yeah.
Niktomi's always depending on the buffalo for fooling him. You know, the skull and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So time
Bang
flies.
his head in there. Stick his head in there, trying to see the
Yeah.
little mice powwow dance.
Yeah, Mija, I said.
Yeah.
So how
Okay.
are we doing on time?
Wagadinkte,
Oh.
Ushimalo.
It's
Oh.
water time.
Yeah. No,
Nice.
Lila Machbat, Mishtima Damninkte.
Oh,
Gee, now I seen you rubbing your eyes. Eh?
Doksha, Dexy Tommy, Dexy Earl, Petuwa Stay Hapo.
Oh, Dokshaka.
Hey,
Went by fast.
hey, hi,